Where I wanted to get started was for you. I know you get asked a lot of questions about a lot of different things, and just kind of what you could say about the challenges of being a commissioner in today's world are, in your opinion.
Well, I think the challenges of being a commissioner, first of all, are always about building consensus because, and particularly the larger your league is. You know, we've gone from a 9-member league to 12 to now 15, and it's been terrific, and it gives us all kinds of opportunities that we did not have as a 9-member league or even a 12-member league, and puts us in a position of strength. But it also is that many more people that you need to bring together, because one of the keys to being a great conference is the ability to sit in a conference room and have the leadership from each of, in our case, 15 schools, make decisions that are in the best interest of the whole, not necessarily just in the best interest of one or two institutions. And our league has had a tremendous culture, in my opinion, of having trust in each other and an ability to make decisions that are in the best interest of the whole. And you know, that's continued, fortunately. But I think the consensus building is the biggest challenge, and the other parts of it, I think, are adjusting and understanding that the world changes, and while you don't want to change your principles, so to speak, and your priorities and what you're fundamentally about, I think you need to maintain those principles, but at the same time adjust to a changing world, whether it be social media or technological aspects of it, the change in the television market, all of those things come into play.
When you look at, like you said, wanting to look for the consensus and to have all 15 schools feel like they're a part of something, Tobacco Road and, you know, Charlotte area, as well as, you know, Greensboro and whatnot, to have the ACC tournament there, it works for the Clemsons and the NC States and, you know, Virginia Tech and Virginia and North Carolina and Duke and so on and so forth. But to have it in Brooklyn, you look at some of the schools you brought in over the last few years where it helps Pittsburgh, it helps Syracuse, Louisville, Notre Dame and whatnot. You know that you're not going to be here in, you know, the foreseeable future. Just what you could say about spending a couple of years in Brooklyn, what that did for the teams you brought in, and if you sit down with the 15 schools and look at schools like Syracuse and Pittsburgh and BC and so on and so forth, and say to them, we would like to come back to the Northeast and give opportunities in the future for the tournament.
Well, first of all, I think the rotation our tournament has had over the last 4 or 5 years has been a very, very good one that has served our conference well. Where we've been, we were in North Carolina, then Washington, then here in New York for 2 years, and then we'll be back in North Carolina for 2 years. And I've been really pleased with that rotation. I think we'll probably, while it's premature to say so, based on the early discussions that we've had, of extending the rotation, I suspect what we announce going forward will be something similar as we move along, because we've had a great experience here in New York. I think it's been tremendous for all of our schools, actually, and we need to be here, and we'll need to be here in the future, and I would fully expect us to. I also think we need to pay attention to the you know, where the roots of the league began and where the tournament became great, which was in the state of North Carolina. But that North Carolina, Washington, New York rotation has been very, very good to us. So we'll see what we do in the future, but I would suspect it would be something similar to what we've done in our most recent rotation, and that we're in the middle of, where we go back to North Carolina the last 2 years. I sort of liken it to the catchphrase of respect the past and embrace the future. And what I mean by that is that you know, with our 15 schools, you obviously have a lot of the schools that formed the Atlantic Coast Conference and have never been in any other conference but the Atlantic Coast Conference. And there's great history and tradition there. and a tremendous tournament that was built over a long period of time and has been a great one for a long time, that had most of its history in North Carolina. And then you've got some tremendous programs that have come out of the Big East that are now part of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and that tradition in history tournament-wise has been in New York.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. I mean, I think it's fair to say that for years, the two best conferences in college basketball and the two best conference tournaments in college basketball were the ACCs and the Big East. And now a lot of us are together in the ACC.
Yeah.
So I think we need to respect both traditions and histories there. And then in terms of embracing the future, we're a different league now. We're 15.
Yeah.
We go, from Boston to Miami, the entire eastern seaboard. And we need to recognize that as well and take advantage of the opportunities that gives us, because it gives us tremendous strength and a lot of opportunities that the ACC never had before as a 9-member league, and nor did the members of the Big East, because it was more regional. So, I think we've got a great thing going, and I would see us keeping it going.
And when you look at, where you're at, you'll be 2019 in Charlotte, 2020 back in Greensboro. When you said you're in these current discussions, how many years are you trying to plan out? When you look at this DC, New York, Carolina discussion, are you trying to kind of sit down and say, let's plan out the next 6 years or the next 10 years? How are you looking at things right now?
I don't think it'll be as far out as we've done sometimes in the past. There was a time not too long ago where we actually did a 10-year rotation.
Yeah.
We won't do that. And, we may try to look at things where we're staying maybe 5 years out. So, we've got 2 left after this. I would see us maybe adding 2, maybe adding 3. I don't think it'll be any more than that this spring.
Yeah.
And then, after another year or 2, then we look at it again and tack on to the back end of things when we've got several left.
Yeah.
So sort of keeping it in that 5-year range is probably what we'll do.
And when you look at, at the conference itself, with everything that's going on, when I had spoken with you just a few minutes ago about the challenges of being a commissioner right now, with everything, be it coming out with Miami, North Carolina, Louisville, Duke, Syracuse, so on and so forth, more than 20 schools named with the FBI probe and that are inside, majority of them inside of the Power 5. Just how you tackle that and how you handle that, because the FBI has to do their job, the NCAA has to do their job, but you're the guy that's going up having to answer questions, and people want to know what your thoughts are and how you're going to handle it in the future. Just how you tackle that, because we don't see the days that you spend and the nights that you spend in your office sitting at the desk trying to figure out how you're going to tackle something. So just what you can say about the background of it all and how you try to present this conference moving forward, knowing that people have questions.
Well, that's an important part of it, without question, Dan, and it's a part of it where you need to work with obviously others in similar positions of leadership at the other conferences, and because we have to do this together, and we also need to be working with the people that are at the grassroots level in college basketball, for instance, in USA basketball, the things that happen before these players even get to us at the collegiate level, and then those beyond the collegiate level in the NBA and the NBA Players Association that impact us as well. So we're not only impacted by our own rules and the things we pass from the legislative standpoint and the concepts we put forward, we're affected by the things that are done before they get to us and the things that are done after they leave us. And I don't think we can continue to operate as silos. There's got to be a better connectedness there, and there's a lot of effort that goes into that. But the thing you don't want is, anytime you hear an FBI investigation connected to college basketball, that's exactly what you do not want to hear. And obviously there's some systemic things in college basketball that need to be changed. I think we need to look at that very, very carefully. You don't want to have just a knee-jerk reaction that you don't understand the unintended consequences of the changes that you make. But obviously there need to be some changes, both changes that we can control and some changes we can't control, but hopefully we can influence to make the whole period of time from when a young person is just beginning to be a quality player, at the grassroots level, to when that person enters the NBA and plays on a professional level. So a lot goes into that as well, and hopefully, I think this is an opportunity for us in college basketball to figure out what changes can be made that makes the world a better place first of all for the young men that are playing the game, and then for the whole global sense of the game itself. And I think we've made some progress with that. I think there are a lot of things that are being discussed right now, not necessarily publicly. You can't necessarily solve all this publicly. A lot of people have opinions on what to do, but the real hard work, I think, gets done behind the scenes and out of the bright lights. But hopefully, when that time comes, the spring, summer, so forth, there'll be some concepts that come forward that can make us all better.
When you look at changes that need to be made, what are some of the things that come to mind? I know you've spoken about Adam Silver and the one and done rule and kind of his take on it, your thoughts on it, how there's some parallels there. What are some of the changes that are on your mind to say some are in your control, some are not, but hopefully you can influence them? What are some of those things?
Well, the one that's not in our control is the one and done. I think we're in the worst place we could be in college athletics with the NBA's one and done rule. I'd much rather see something like the baseball rule or the football rule or even the hockey rule, where a player can go out of high school and go professionally. But if they don't, they go to college, then they wait 3 years. It could be 2 years, but 1 year is the worst. I'd rather not have any. I just let them go out of high school, because I think that forces some kids into the collegiate system that are really not very interested in higher education, and that's okay. Higher education isn't for everybody. It may be better for. Kobe Bryant did a wonderful job of skipping college, going straight to the NBA, and look at the career he had. Now, he's an extraordinary example. There aren't a whole lot of those, but there are some. And if they had that opportunity, then I think that's fine. I don't think that damages college basketball one bit, personally. So I'd like to see the one and done rule done away with. Even if it is simply, you can go after high school, or you can go anytime else. I think that's better than what we have right now. Even though, from my perspective, I'd rather it be the baseball rule. So that's one. What we do during the summer is another, in terms of the camps and the opportunity for kids to be seen and therefore recruited, and where can our coaches go, when can they go there, and who controls those camps. I think we may need to take more control of collegiate athletics, and maybe it's in partnership with the NBA, maybe it's in partnership with the shoe companies, but I think a different approach needs to take place there. And so those would be two right off the bat. A third, in my opinion, is that I think we need to modernize our agent rules, and by that I mean liberalize them some. I think we've got some rigid rules right now that don't really matter in the whole scheme of things, and I think we need to give our players the opportunity to get the right kind of advice at various times in their collegiate career without losing their eligibility, and that may mean giving them the opportunity to do some things and with agents that gives them more of an opportunity to get the kind of information they should have and get it from the right kind of people instead of the wrong kind of people. And even to the point of possibly, going into the draft, maybe they're not drafted, let them come back as a possibility. Now I'm not quite there yet, but I think we need to really step back and take a look at real change that can better the system, better the process, better the opportunities for our players, and to understand if we went in this direction or that direction, what the unintended consequences would be, because that can be the killer, is when you don't see the unintended consequences. So this is an opportunity to do that.
When you look at, like you said, having some opportunities to make some changes and do certain things, and a former partnership with the NBA potentially and with the shoe companies and whatnot, you look at the autonomous five that you're a part of with the ACC, Pac-12 as well, the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. With that legal side of things and with the autonomy, do you look at something like this and the FBI probe and what's going on with the NCAA and ever think to yourself as a commissioner to sit down with the other commissioners of the autonomous five and say, maybe we need to form our own separate group that is just the five of us and that we don't function completely under the NCAA anymore? I mean, is there a thought of maybe we can handle it better, maybe we need to just wipe the slate clean and start a new chapter? Do you ever look at something like that?
Well, I think that's been lurking in the back, the background for a while. I don't think we're there yet, and I think the adjustment in the NCAA structure. It's been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that brought us autonomy, gave us the opportunity to really make some headway in some things, such as full cost of attendance, 4-year scholarships, stronger insurance programs for our athletes at the Power 5 level, if you the Autonomy 5 level, if you will. The challenge in basketball is trying to be trying to be fair to some of the really outstanding basketball programs that are out there that are not part of the Power 5 conferences. There's a pretty distinct separation in the sport of football for a lot of reasons. Basketball, it's not, you don't quite have that same kind of distinction. I mean, Villanova was a great example. I mean, it's one of the outstanding basketball programs in the country. What happens to a Villanova if the Power 5 goes off? To accept, just breaking it down, and there are others. That would fall into a similar category. Villanova is the most obvious, I guess, right now because of their current success. As well as past success. I mean, that's not recent by any means. So basketball is a different animal than football, and you'd have other examples in other sports as well. So I don't think any of us take lightly the thought of going off in our own direction. I'm not saying that someday that maybe that happens, but I do not think that's imminent.
Coming from John Swofford. And John, outside of all of this, I want to do something really quick with you on the show that I call Rapid Fire to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that have nothing to do with sports. You ready to play?
Okay.
All right. Favorite movie of all time?
Casablanca.
If anybody could play you in a movie, what actor would you want to play you?
Brad Pitt.
Favorite song of all time?
Good Morning Starshine.
Favorite band?
Chicago.
If you weren't a commissioner, what would you be doing right now?
I'd be a writer.
For what?
I don't know, but I'd be by a beach and I'd be writing novels and probably novels, maybe some history.
3-part question. You can go anywhere in the world. Where do you go? You could take one person you know, and you could take one celebrity. Where do you go? Who do you take that you know, and what celebrity?
Wow. Well, the person I would take would be my wife, Nora, without question. Where I would go, Monaco, at the bottom of the Swiss Alps.
Okay.
And who I would take with me. Does it have to be living?
No.
I guess it has to be living.
I guess now, yeah.
Going to go with me.
Yeah.
I'll take Redford.
Take Redford.
Take Robert Redford with me.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Why him?
I think he's a fascinating guy. He's got a lot of different interests and a thoughtful guy, and obviously very good at his craft.
2 final questions. If wherever you walked there was a quote that hung above your head that we could all see, what would you want that quote to be?
The only constant in life is change. Embrace it.
And finally, for you, what is one thing, if you had unlimited power, what's one thing that you would want to do to change this world in this moment? What's one thing that you would do, the first thing you would do?
Declare peace.
Fair enough. That's John Swofford. John, as always, I appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Dan.